Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we are joined by author and economic analyst, here I am, John Sneisen. And we got to talk about a Canadian story here, because it is scaring a lot of people as CBC, state-run media, reports. We're going to elaborate on it quite substantially. As they say, banks closing 20 rural Saskatchewan branches in 2017. Banks cite online banking, changing nature of banking as reasons for closure. So, John, can you go into what exactly is going on here? What's causing this?
Well, first of all, it's a move to a cashless society. They want to make sure people are starting to use their online banking more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
Trying to slowly, put you in that system. And of course, that's what Kenneth Rogoff said when he wanted to get people into the system. He says it has to be a slow drip. You can't just force it. But of course, India did it with quite substantial success.
The snap of a finger, 86% demonetization.
Yeah. So, of course, there's going to be some things that are changing here in Canada right now. And, of course, this is just the start that 20 rural Saskatchewan branches from big banks are shutting down. Now, there is, of course, a lot of them that have their own credit unions and so on. But the problem is there's a couple of communities that doesn't have anything. Now, here is a suggestion to those communities. Maybe there's other opportunities other than the bank to actually give you funding. Maybe start to do online crowdfunding, for example. How about that? And then also there's cryptocurrencies that you could use for transactions.
Oh yeah,
within
decentralization.
Now, of course, all of these are online, so it's a little bit of a problem that way. Now, the other way is to start your own different type of exchanges, or you could start a local currency that could be backed by a commodity that, of course, these rural communities are heavily agricultural communities. How about you just, back your currency with some value from that and then just go away from the Canadian dollar? Because clearly what the big banks are doing is they're forcing you into this online system. And of course, who's going to be left behind is the old and of course a lot of the rural people, because they don't believe in this online enslavement system. A lot of them are awake and starting to really fight back, and they're using a lot of cash, and that's of course what these elitists hate, and the control bankers here in Canada. One problem that we've seen, of course, and this is from an economist. He says, if 20% of the population uses online banking, you need 20% larger population to support an annual bricks and mortar bank. If we could hold our bank, we could hold a lot. Of course, what they're saying with this is that as soon as these when there's a bank in a community and it shuts down, there's no economic activity that are able to go through easily through that community. But that's why you need to stop that trend by starting to work with alternative currencies. We have a friend actually in Manitoba here, Kevin, which is promoting time banking. That's another form of currency that you can voluntarily, interact with and use instead of this depreciating Canadian fiat currency.
And the demand has to be up there for private vaults, etc. And just going into elaborating on the cashless society that you went into, because I always have to mention it because people mix up a centrally planned cashless society with decentralized cryptocurrencies. There's a huge difference because one's being manipulated and one isn't. So the cashless society, basically they're trying to implement it globally and push it into the SDR, special drawing rights at the IMF. And what it basically is imagine this. If your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's the bank's. And if your money's always going through the banks through digital transactions, it's never yours, it's always the bank's, and you're in servitude to the banking system. And you're tracked everywhere because every single payment you make is being watched. So this implementation of a cashless society is even far more dangerous than the insanity of the fiat centrally planned system that's already in place. You have to get off that grid. You have to get into a free monetary system, a free market, and get off this grid because it is destructive by its very creation. The whole point of it is in order to push people into debt servitude. And we're watching that as fiat currency is printed out of thin air, devaluing at its very source and creating debt and inflation. When you are shoved down that bottomless pit of debt, the only way you can get up is to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, and that puts you in servitude.
Yeah, and what we're seeing and this is a trend that's happening in Canada, is as the chart shows you here, it says online or internet banking is at 51%. Actually, since 2014, it's gone down a little bit. And then people use mobile banking. That's probably one of the trends. Of course, that is 17%. And only 12% of people are using the branches face to face. So there's only 12% left of actually cash interactions with the banks. But now, of course, the cash interactions for person to person is there still. But the problem is it's less and less and less. But what I also believe is the black market here in Canada is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Because of crazy regulations and taxes that are popping up all over the place, and the devaluation.
And is online, like cashless society push that we're having from our local banks here.
Well, the future is very technocratic right now, and I really do believe that people need to understand the meanings of these words better, because when we're looking at things like a cashless society, most people have no idea what that even means. They just think ease of access, stopping, criminals from trading, blah, 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 blah. No, that's nonsense. It's tracking you and pushing you into debt servitude. You never own your money, folks. It's always in the bank. Yeah. You never own it in your hand. You can spend it through the bank at their permission, but it's not your money, it's the bank's. And this is insane that people are just falling onto their knees for this, because they don't understand what this actually means long term. When we have a system like this, we're talking about a global currency that's trying to be pushed right now through G20, Davos, the World Economic Forum, the Trilateral Commission, through China, through Australia, India, and I really think that Sweden, and we need to understand what this means. Economics seems really complicated by its wording, but it's worded that way on purpose in order to confuse people. It's far more basic and far more simple than it seems. So I really think that people should just do their due diligence, because the fact of the matter is, you can watch Netflix all day and know everything about a TV show. You can walk the streets and know your neighborhood, but you can't think about the things that affect you the most. Your ability to freely interact, your ability to not be drinking out of gutters. I mean, this is very, very dangerous, folks, and it's so important that people understand the meanings of this implementation that's being pushed on a global scale.
Yeah. I think it's very important. I'm very excited. I'm getting very close to launching my book now, and it might be actually out when Josh put this video out. So if it's up online, I highly suggest you go and check it out. It's called Canada, the greatest economy in the world, ? Now that question mark, of course, comes up because Canada, everybody's talking about how great Canada is now, because you're having the little bit of a downslow in Scandinavia there. So now they have to find another, great socialist economy to push onto the populace in the world as a great bastion of wealth and prosperity. Yeah, and what I do in my book, I go through 12 points that completely are paradigm shifting for people that are in the investments and that thought the banks were safe and so on. I really crush their beliefs, and then I help them with what I have as solutions in my book to maybe make a brighter future than what is ahead of us, because as I say in the book, I talk about this cashless society implementation and the United Nations and the special drawing rights that are coming forward right now, and how we need to heed the warning and actually start to take action and work together as a society to go back. You see the populist movement, they call it, in the United States and in a whole bunch of places now popping up, but we need to just have a voluntarist push. We need to really get this idea of voluntarism out to people, so when the system comes down, people have some choices to choose from other than full-on communism that we're going to see with the United Nations if they get their chances of. Look at the G20 meeting and how destructive these fascist anti-fascists are.
Yeah. The actual fascists, the people in the streets claiming they're anti-fascists. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that there are a lot of ways to protect yourself. I think there are a lot of ways to ensure yourself. This isn't the end. You just need to understand the evil and call it by name before you are able to shoo those snakes out of the den and protect yourself, because self-responsibility comes first, self-sustainability, food, water, shelter, sound money, decentralization, and of course defense. And those are the prime basics of
and the government hates that.
Protection. Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why the government comes after all that. So thanks for going into this with us, John, and we will be back at you with much more. There's so much going on and all over the world. In Canada, I mean, we're just watching civil liberties and individual liberties crumble before our eyes, and it's just totally insane. And I feel the pain of many of you being Canadian, and I want to help you understand what's going on and be able to shoo those snakes out of the den. So we'll be back at you with much more, but check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored by YouTube. Also check our Bitcoin address in the description in the comments, as well as on the screen for you to scan, if you please. And also check me out at Josh Sigurdson, and check John out at The Economic Truth on steemit.com. That's steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid in cryptocurrency to blog. It's really doing a great job taking out the dinosaur social medias as they crumble and try to censor people with their last grasp on the reality of the fact that they're crashing and burning. And it's a beautiful thing to see because they deserve it, and individualism and decentralization is the future. So thanks for going into all this with just John, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen, signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.